بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Last week we had started talking about qiyas, and we said that the first three authorities that we have in Islam in order to make rulings are what? Number one, the Quran. Number two, the Sunnah. And number three, ijma'. And very quickly, the Quran is authority because? All right, number one, convincing, like you have to convince me to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Absolutely, that's the first step. And then what is the second step? To show that the Quran is a miracle. And what does that prove? That it is from Allah. And that now turns it into an authority that can be used for legal proofs. Like the second source we said is what? The Sunnah. How do I prove that the Sunnah is a legal source? The Quran. Through the Quran, right? Because once you establish, remember, like there's a stepwise logical process here that if I prove the Quran is divine, it is through the Quran that I will also prove that the Sunnah is also divine, right? So, well, I mean, I guess that's a discussion for another time. What is the actual difference between the Quran and the Hadith? But so we know that this leads to us establishing the authority of the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we said the third authority was what? Ijma', right? Scholarly consensus. So, and even though we established both the Quran and the Sunnah to be a proof, and we said that these are both authorities, is there a good use of verses and a hadith to show the authority of ijma'? No. Not really. Why? Because they're vague and unspecific, and so it's difficult to actually use them as a proof. So if I don't have shar'i proofs, if I don't have proofs from our religious texts, where else do I establish proofs from? Because remember, what is one of the ways that we establish the proof of the Quran? Through aql, right? Through rational proofs. So rational proofs are something that are reasonable to use in order to establish the authority of something or to establish the validity of something. And that's how we establish the Quran. Then we establish the Sunnah. Through ijma', what are some logical reasonings, or what are some rational proofs that I can say or use that are a little bit stronger, a little bit firmer than the general verses and general hadith? All right, so the probability, right? But the law of probability is something that is extremely important. What is the probability that you would have all of these people with different motives, different understandings, different methods coming together and agreeing upon an understanding of a particular verse or particular hadith or particular ruling, right? What is the probability of that happening? It should be very low. So the fact that they're all doing it is indicative of something that is very strong. What else did we say? The fact that it exists in and of itself, right? This is something that is reasonable. That it's there and it exists and it happens. Good. What else? Historical what? Norms. Sure. Like, what can you expand on that a little bit? Okay, so I think I might not be too different from the probability argument, right? And I think it's very similar to what she had mentioned also. So, but I mean, these are all reasonable, like they're all reasonable, and these are all good reasons and good understandings of why ijma' in itself is an authority. The qiyas, the first conversation or the first question that we had is qiyas an authority in and of itself? Right, so there's a difference of opinion among scholars. Some of them, they will say it is an authority in and of itself, and other scholars will say it is a tool. That either way, does it change the resulting ruling? No. So this is what we call a theoretical discussion, right? Because it has no bearing on the actual application. It's just like, okay, do you make it a authority in and of itself, or is it a methodological tool? We said that there are 4 parts of qiyas, right? You have the asl, the far', the illa, and the hukum. Let's let's apply this. There's a very easy example that almost everybody uses, which is alcohol. So what is the asl? What is the thing that is being compared to? Right, so that we can say the alcohol is what we are talking about. So would that be the reasoning, or would that be the object? That would be the reasoning. That would be the illah. The illah is that it intoxicates, and the foundation is that it is alcohol in and of itself, and the ruling is that it is haram. So we have three components here. What would be a fourth component now? Three components you guys figured out. Alcohol, intoxication, haram. Right. What is it being applied to? What is it being applied to? So for example, if I put here orange juice, it wouldn't, why wouldn't it work? It doesn't share the reasoning. Even though it does have a small amount, and it can ferment. Like, I don't know if you guys let orange juice sit too long, what happens? It tastes really bad or really good. So anyway, like so that is one example of the application of this. What is another example that we can think of? Sure. Yeah, so it has to have a matching reasoning. All right. Yeah, exactly. So as soon as the reasoning doesn't match, what happens? The hukam is going to change, and the hukam is going to be different. So do you understand the utility of the qiyas? What is another example that we get? So I think marijuana was one that was used. So over here we said alcohol. You want to put marijuana in slot 2, and then intoxication and the ruling. So does marijuana intoxicate? Yeah. Yes, it does, right? Does it intoxicate the same way? No. No, right? The type of intoxication is different. And that's something that can be explored for sure. And it does deserve exploration. But the reason that it doesn't intoxicate in the same way is why you have scholars who allow what? I'm sorry, medical uses, right? Versus alcohol. Are there medical uses of the consumption of alcohol? No, there's no medical use for the consumption of alcohol. Does it have a utilitarian use? No, even cough syrup, no. Yeah. Why? Because what is the alternative for? No, cough syrup is fine, but cough syrup without alcohol. Because the thing is, like, if you have like NyQuil, I think has a very high like a high alcohol content. But can you get non-alcoholic cough syrups? Yeah, you can. I forgot the molecule that they use for the cough suppressants. But yeah, whatever. So for marijuana, so over here we said alcohol and marijuana, right? These are the two ones that we're going to try to compare and put into the slots. The reasoning, is there a reasoning that connects them?
Wait, sorry, marijuana is also the fact that we already know that alcohol is less of a.
Yeah, so yeah, alcohol is haram because it intoxicates. Sure. Number two.
For alcohol, we said we have 1 3.
No. So one was alcohol, 3 was intoxication, and 4 was haram. Because what are we comparing it to? Do you understand? 2 is the thing we're actually comparing it to. So if I and let me do the example again. Yeah. So over here we put number 1, we put alcohol. Number 2, we put orange juice. 3, intoxication. 4, haram. So if I put over here, can I now say, because we said 1 leads to 4 because of 3. Will 2 lead to 4 because of 3? So over here we said alcohol is haram because it intoxicates. Orange juice is haram because it intoxicates. It's invalid. Why? Because orange juice doesn't intoxicate. And we said marijuana. Will marijuana work if we plug it in to the same thing? We will say marijuana is haram because it intoxicates. But because it doesn't intoxicate the same way, we said what? There's a little bit more leeway in terms of medical application. Okay. Another example. Alcohol is it's like the easiest one. Pork. Okay, that's excellent. So pork is haram because yeah. It's okay. It's yeah.
Why it is haram?
Sure.
Because of health reasons, for example.
Sure. What are those health reasons?
Yeah, parasites.
Okay, cool. So can I say now, what's an example? What's an animal that carries fish? Chicken, huh? Yes, chicken is a great example. Chicken carries parasites, therefore it is also haram.
Yeah, isn't the standard, not just Vegas is wrong, but like
Yeah.
the standard animals carrying the
So the thing is, you have like scavengers. There's a difference of opinion. You don't have like one blanket thing. You have animals that hunt. You have a like, I don't think it's a majority. I think the Shāfis and the Hanbalis, they don't allow it. So like lions and the community, it's not permissible, right? Yeah. So for Hanbalis at least, like we can't eat predatory animals, like lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, like but those animals we can't consume. Why? Because they're predatory. And even like eagles, hawks, like we can't consume because they're predatory. Malikis would say okay. Yeah. So you limit it to livestock and a few other animals, because there are some predatory animals that are allowed in the madhāhib too, like hyenas. Yeah, I mean, like nobody's gonna eat it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah, it's strange. Sure. I mean, so the thing is, are you talking about treatment of animals in general? Sure. Okay. Sure. I can see abuse to be, so here, there are a couple things here. You have abuse and you have misuse. You guys understand the difference? So if I eat 3 pounds of sugar, that's abuse, right? That's actual abuse, and I'm abusing my body by doing that. But if I drink a can of Coke, would you say it's healthy? No, it's definitely unhealthy, and it might be a misuse, but one is actually haram and one isn't. Why? Right, there's one, I've now reached the point of indulgence where I'm actually, I'll say I'm poisoning my body, not harming, right? I'm poisoning my body versus harming my body. And is there a tolerance in Islam for levels of self-harm? I know this is not a comfortable question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I'm saying, like, and this is important now. How do you define self-harm? If I eat unhealthy, if I have a sedentary lifestyle, this all these things are harmful, but am I spiritually accountable for having that lifestyle? No. At what point would I be?
You like cut yourself.
Okay, right. That's extreme, right? Like cutting myself. This is not permissible. Gluttony. So over here now we're starting to draw the line between being unhealthy and indulging. So if I like fighting, I box, or I'm into MMA, will I be abused? Yeah, like in Islam, will there be a tolerance for that? It depends. It depends on
Interpret the hadith
of the face, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that's really important. But over here, let's say that you are in MMA or you're in jiu-jitsu, and they both agree that we're not going to strike on the face so that we don't get into any difference of opinion here. Will you be hurt? For sure. You'll bruise, you'll be hurt. Would you say now that this is haram?
No.
No.
The companions did like
Companions used to wrestle,
Yeah.
right? This is something that's established. They used to prepare for jihad, right? They used to fight, and they used to go on military campaigns and expeditions, and they used to have training. So these things happen. It's a good question.
concussion, like.
So I mean, if wrestling's okay, I imagine football is.
like spearing.
Yeah.
What would be the line?
That is the question. What is the line? So self-harm here, I think it's important to learn how to define it. I think self-harm versus abuse, that might be a good way to kind of define these things. Where else does this apply? Disciplining your children. Like even legally, you're allowed to what? You're allowed to spank, right? So the problem is when you use the word hit, it actually falls under the other category, which is what? Abuse. Huh? Yeah, legally. So which is why I avoid using the term, but using the word spank would be more appropriate, and it would be legally acceptable. Like you wouldn't have issue with that. So even in Islam, we're allowed to spank our children, but we're not allowed to. We're not allowed, you're allowed to, right? But you're not allowed to abuse, right? You're not allowed to abuse them. So that is the line, right? That is the line. When does it fall to abuse? How is that defined? Is there a percentage? Is there a number? What do we do? Okay, sure. So I think intention is good. A person. So I think intention is a good supporting proof. I don't think it can be the only one, because a person can intend well and they can end up putting themselves into, like, yeah, no, I think being a crash test dummy is, the pay is really good. Or, it's like, bro, like this is like your 7th vaccine in like three weeks. Like, are you sure? It's like they pay me every time, man. So over here, he can intend well. It's like either he can intend like, I need that money, or it's like I'm helping humanity, by being like a human guinea pig. So these are things that are important for us to define and deal with that. So in this situation, when it comes to that, I think intention is definitely a good supporting argument. What else do we need? What other criteria can we use to? Yeah. Okay. So what if I'm just like a really good MMA fighter? Let's talk. We can talk about both of them.
I was talking about the.
Sure. So we said we had defined that with abuse. Like once it's defined as abuse, and how in the Sharia, how is abuse defined?
Oh, is it like in what context? Like
Spanking. Like at what point does spanking become abuse?
like ratting.
Right. So and we have clear hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. How does he define it? If it leaves a mark. If it leaves a mark, that's enough. That is how Shar'an abuse is defined. If it breaks a bone, what do you guys think about that? Right? If it leaves a mark, then to the next extent, if it breaks a bone.
At that point, it makes sense. But going back to the example of the contact sports,
Yeah.
is it just because they both kind of like agreed to that?
Sure. So I think that's also a very important point. It's consensual, right? It's consensual. So versus a child. Exactly. So no. So the thing is, when it's not consensual, that's when the limits, what happens? They change. The tolerance changes. The moment that you move out of the consensual space, the tolerance changes. Because what is the purpose of spanking a child? What is the purpose of corporal punishment? What is the purpose of all of these things? Right. It's ta'deeb. Disciplining. Jazakallah khair. Right. The purpose is to discipline. The purpose is to discipline. And whenever you have disciplinary action, there's always going to be a power dynamic, right? Of authority versus those who are under that authority. So that's important. So consent is definitely something that's important. Over here, like what would happen, and I'll give you 2 scenarios where you have 2 people who are fighting, and one guy ends up bloody and bruised and blah, 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 and he files a complaint with the police. Huh? He didn't tap out in time. What if he didn't agree? Right? If he didn't agree, then that is going to be what? Abuse. But what if they're in a ring? Like they're both in a ring, right? They're both in a ring, and this guy's like, no, I'm going to sue you. Does he have a right now to actually take him to a Shari'i court? No. Why? Because the moment he stepped into the ring, what happened? He gave consent. Sure. Yeah. So like war is a unique situation, right? War is a unique situation. And basically what happens is, because even in war situations, do you have individuals on both sides, whether it's a nation state or whatever the case might be, who don't consent to that war? It happens. But because of the fact they're subjects of the authority, what happens? They have to submit to the authority. It doesn't matter if they personally object or not. And this is why allegiance, this is now a conversation of allegiances. So when you have issues of like wala wal bara, Like if you have issues of allegiances, how do you determine those allegiances? Like even us here being in the United States, you have people say, I hate America, blah, blah, blah. But what happens the moment they have a problem in Egypt, or they have a problem in Libya, or they have a problem in France? American embassy. And I'm not saying this to like belittle the person in any way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, your allegiances are going to show. Like you use them when what? Right, when you needed them. So now that the political pressure is in the other way, and where the government actually needs you, unfortunately, you don't have what? You don't have a choice, because you already showed your allegiances. And here, even Islamically, this becomes, you start entering a different realm altogether. Is when you change allegiances, what is that? I change allegiances. I'm not worse than hypocrisy. Treason.
Yeah.
Very simply, it's treason. It could be ridda, yeah, which yeah.
Okay.
That's in summary what apostasy is. And I am more inclined to it being political than I am religious.
Okay.
Yeah. But these things are, I mean, they're important conversations, but it helps understand for us how to determine tolerances within Islam. Because there are always going to be different level of tolerances based on consent, based on allegiances, based on, based on authority. And all of these are different factors that play into when we talk about how to do and apply or misapply different concepts. Make sense? Shukran. Is there any other rulings we could? So the pork ruling. Let's go back to the pig. Right? How did we end up with? Right. So what is the problem with the pig in analogy? How come pig can't fall into the qiyas as cleanly? Because
it's exceptional.
right. So there are a number of them, and I'll mention some. But the reason that we can't do it is because Allah didn't tell us what. He didn't tell us why. He didn't give us the reason. But for alcohol, we have a divinely inspired reasoning for it, which is why we can actually do analogy to it. Some other things, for example, the Salat al-Dhuhr is 4 units, is 4 rakah. What is the reasoning?
No.
Well,
We shouldn't say that.
No, it hasn't been told to us, right? Like there are certain things like Uthman had said that are called ta'abbudi. These are things that we just accept. We accept without question. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has divinely inspired it in this way, then we accept it as it has come. Another example. Gambling. Okay. I think gambling and riba are 2 very good ones because the reasoning for them is what? I'm sorry? Operational and oppression. So the oppression is definitely there. I like the operational better actually, but but over here when it comes to gambling or it comes to riba, there is an oppression aspect to it. I definitely agree with you, but let's talk about gambling first. What is the difference between gambling and business, or gambling and investing?
So one side loses and gambling. Both sides don't gain.
Both have risk,
It contributes nothing to the.
and there's no guarantee. In gambling, it's a gamble, right? There's no guarantee you lose.
It's not based on anything.
In investment, both sides can only gamble, like one side loses, one side wins.
Investment, both sides can lose too. Sometimes investments pay off very quickly. You're actually onto something. There is a social aspect to it, which I do agree with. Yes. No. Yes.
It's because it doesn't actually contribute anything. You're just making money off of something that literally it's not a good or a service. You're just making
Okay.
money off of it.
So let me put it in a different way. In gambling, you're not adding value. Right. So even if I invest and I lose everything, I've still what? I've still contributed to some value that's there. In gambling, there's no value. So how can I use that here? There's no value. I'm not creating any value. You're not. Huh? So no. Here, you're not creating value. You might be creating value in the system. So even in stealing, right? When you steal something, I'm creating value for who? For myself. But when it comes to investing, who am I creating value for in addition to myself? For society. The problem with stealing is that I might be creating value for myself, but I'm not creating value for who? For society. And for gambling, I might be creating value for myself or for the institution, but I'm not creating value for society. So, I'm sorry? Which is fine, but you're still contributing to a good or a service, right? So whether you lose or gain or whatever the case might be, there's still a contribution to a good or a service, and you can lose, right? That's the thing with investing. Investing, there's a good chance that you can actually lose. I don't know if you guys are aware of the statistics. What percentages of business in the United States, like first-time businesses, fail? It's like 70%. It's very high. It's very high. So, is there a guarantee that you'll succeed? No, there isn't. But, and there are a number of factors on why it fails too. But it doesn't mean that it's wrong, because obviously some people, that 30%, they not only succeed, they succeed very, very well. And this is just my personal gauge. I think a good judge of freedom in a society is on who's wealthier, the businessmen or the politicians. Sorry. Yeah. So if it's not creating value, where is a good application of this in maybe some modern assets? Ascent. Good. I think cryptocurrency is a great example of this. Is cryptocurrency creating a value in society? Yes. Yes, it is. So now I can say that Bitcoin, because it's creating value, it is not haram. But amongst cryptocurrencies, there are different types. Yes, there's not just Bitcoin. There are other types of currencies that have you guys, sorry, I hope I'm not getting too abstract, but there are these things called meme coins. Nobody's heard of a meme coin? Yeah. You have? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So what is a meme coin? A meme coin is basically produced by a group of people in order to, they're not interested in adding value. They're just interested in what? Inflating the price. They're like, it's called a pump and dump scheme. It's basically they inflate the price to a point where they sell off their shares, knowing that what's going to happen, that is, it will crash. So people are like, okay, why would you get into it? Because it's a matter of timing what? The peak, right? So they want to time the peak, and it's not easy. Those type of coins, are they adding any value? No, they're not. So in that specific application, it can work. I think that riba is going to be, that's a little bit, because the problem with the riba discussion also is that some people say that illah is what? They say it's ta'budi. Some scholars claim that. They say that it is it's divinely inspired. So the reasoning isn't, yeah. So because it's divinely inspired, you can't actually use qiyas. You can't actually use analogy to apply it to different other types of transactions. But oppression is one of the reasonings that scholars use. Basically, riba is what?
Making money off of money.
Right? It's making money off of money. It's like it's selling money, right? It's selling money. So my question would then, huh? Oh, sure, no problem. If I'm like, hey, listen, I need 5 gold coins. You'd be like, all right, I'll give you 5 gold coins, but you got to give me back 6. Yeah.
You're cautious.
So I mean, yeah, no, I mean, I use gold on purpose. So like over here, this is clearly a ribawi transaction, right? There's clearly riba in this transaction, because you sold me 5 gold of coins for 6. Like now the question comes, who would voluntarily do this? Somebody who's desperate, right? Somebody who's desperate, or somebody who's looking for instant gratification, right? And the desperation can be of different types. You can have people who are actually desperate, who are in a very tough financial situation and they need liquid cash immediately. Or you have those people who really want that 85-inch, ultra high definition TV right now. You know what I mean? Like, so you have gradations of people who are going to fall into the system, people who fall into it voluntarily, or people who fall into it because they are forced to. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so I don't mind having a talk on like the different. Yeah. So the thing is actually like it when it comes to other like financial issues, it's like there's so many layers that are involved to help us actually understand and how to navigate it. There are going to be a number of scholars who will tell you that utilizing the credit card in and of itself, because you're signing and agreeing to a ribawi transaction, is haram. And there are some that will say, okay, yes, we understand that it's haram, but because of how society works and because of the credit score that is related to it, because of the protections that are given to an individual when they make those purchases with that credit card that wouldn't apply if you used your debit card. It is better for you. It is better for you to get the credit card. In addition to, and this is a caveat I like adding in, if you're able to use your credit card like a debit card, I'm okay with that. But the people who use a credit card as like an unlimited line of credit and then just keep purchasing, like they have no self-control, those people, is not permissible for them. Like absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely. No, like I'm saying, if you can treat your credit card like your debit card, I think that person has a good idea of how to balance their budget and how to kind of deal with their finances. And at the same time, they can build their credit score, and like, you know what I mean? Like it'll help them navigate their life in the United States much easier than somebody who completely avoids that system altogether.
Also,
Yeah.
some car rentals will only let you use the credit card of your card.
Yes.
Also,
Yeah. No, and there's some places that only accept credit cards, right? They won't. And why? Because of those insurance protections that are being provided through that card. You know, hotels, some Airbnbs, like there's different services that will not allow you to use just like you just can't function on cash alone. Like some will actually require you to use that. So in those situations, like, obviously a credit card would be preferred. It's not ideal because even the interest that they charge on those is extremely high. It's exorbitant. Like you're talking about like, it's like, they'll start at like 15%, go as high as like 35. It's borderline extortion. So if you have credit cards, pay them off, please. So we had said this last time that is it a source in and of itself, is a methodological tool, and we said that this is just a theoretical argument. There's actually when it comes to application, it doesn't really make a difference at all. So there's the Lahiri school of thought. They're the ones, they challenge qiyas, saying that it is neither a tool nor is it a proof in and of itself. What's interesting though is if you actually go through Mahalla, there are cases of him applying qiyas, but that was after he couldn't find any narrations at all to back up what it was that he was claiming or saying. And these are the verses that he used. We had talked about these last time, so I'm not going to go through them again. And this is his final summary of the issue of qiyas. So how do we respond to them? We said that last time the easiest response was that ijma', right? It is by consensus that qiyas is a tool and it was used by the companions. Therefore, it is permissible to use as an authority or as a tool going forward. Their individual answers. So this is the first verse that he used, right? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tuqaddimu bayna yaday Allahi wa rasuli wattaqullah inna Allaha sami'un alim. That do not push yourselves forward. Basically, push yourselves forward means don't rush or be hasty. That's what the Mufassirin have actually explained this verse to me. It doesn't mean that you can't use knowledge and you can't use logic to come to conclusions. The second verse that he uses is here. وَلَا تَخْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Do not follow blindly what you do not know to be true. Ears, eyes, and heart, you will be questioned about all. So over here, what is known to be untrue, right? Do not know. Over here, there's probability. So the verse doesn't apply. And the last one, مَا فَرَضْنَا فِي كِتَابٍ مِّن شَيْءٍ. We have missed nothing out of the record, that this is a general verse. Just like, and we said, who else uses this verse as a proof? The Quraniyun, right? The Quraniyun, those who say that you can only go back to the Quran. And it's the same response, right? This verse is general. It doesn't specifically apply to that. There are some rational proofs. What are some rational proofs? What are some reasons you guys think that qiyas is applicable, or why it's a reasonable proof.
Like, why would this one specific thing be impermissible for protected times? Let's do that.
Sure.
Like, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only ban alcohol if he was trying to avoid people from being intoxicated? Like, because he talks about the harms. All right, so you're saying that why would Allah give reasons for things? Yeah, like why would we give reasons for things to ban this one specific thing and didn't apply the others?
Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving a reason for something means that what?
A test.
I'm sorry?
Just give us a test.
Right, so basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by giving me a reason, right, as an observer or somebody who's dealing with the text, what is Allah implicitly doing? He's giving me? I'm sorry?
An A/B test.
You're gonna have to raise your voice, I can't hear you.
An A/B test.
An A/B test. Oh, like in order to apply it into two other things, right? Basically, it's like it's an implicit permission to do what? Yes, right? It's implicit permission to do analogy, because if he's giving me the reason and he's given me the ability to what? To think and understand the reasoning. Why would he do that? Why would he give me the reasoning for something if I can't apply it analogously to other situations and to other objects or other rulings? One rational proof that is used, that it's impossible for Sharia to speak about everything that's to come. And we know that the Sharia is good for when? During the time of the Prophet ﷺ only, right? No. Right, for all time, right? It's meant to be for every time and every place. Right? The universality of the Sharia is something that is really important. And it's not possible that the Sharia be universal if I cannot apply analogy. Right? If I can't bring analogous situations from the situations that come in the Quran, that come from the Sunnah, it becomes impossible to practically apply in our lives. And the one thing that you guys mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us intellect, right? Why would he give us the ability and the tools to understand and deal with the text and apply situations if we weren't meant to apply them, right? If we were just constantly meant to restrict ourselves. The next one, that probable cause is a reasonable means of making a rule in Sharia. You guys, like probable cause, right? If there is enough proof for something, right? It doesn't have to be concrete, but if there's enough proof for something, can I use that probable proof as a means to reach a ruling? Yes, absolutely, right? There's no doubt about that. If I bring enough evidence in a case, it's not 100%, but it's 90%. Is that enough to convict somebody? Absolutely, absolutely. And the same thing in the Sharia. If I have 90% proofs or evidences to show the ruling of something, I can use that probability now to actually give me a ruling on an issue or on something. What?
To not use analogy. In some cases.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just like what these absurd like results.
That's what I'm saying. Why give us the ability? You know what I mean? Like it's silly not to. It's silly not to, or to believe that this is why the Lahiri school is so condemned on this issue. Because it's like, okay, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make the Sharia applicable. It doesn't make it palatable if you start removing this tool in and of itself or altogether. There are a number of proofs from the Quran, but these are the rational proofs that I wanted to share with you guys, inshallah, and then we'll go ahead and we'll take a break for Salat al-Maghrib. Before we end here, a majority of those of you who voted in the survey, you said that you wanted to continue in Ramadan. I'm completely fine with that. So the only timings that are available and I think will actually work for everyone is if I have this class on Saturday and a Tazkiyah class on Sunday after Salat al-Asr. Huh? Yeah, I don't know what else to do it. Like I can't do it at the same time. It's just not possible to do it at the same time, because we'll be, or it'll have to be like Asr is at 5 o'clock now. I can't do it too close to iftar time because the entire masjid is going to be preparing for iftar. And the only practical time to do it would be to do it on Saturday and Sunday after. I'll send another survey. I'll send a follow-up survey, inshallah, and I'll see what you guys say if it's good or not. Because I said if everybody wanted to start at 6:30, but most of you didn't show up till 6:40. So, but I'll send out another survey, inshallah, to see what timings work. Because there are very specific slots. There are very specific slots. Either it's going to be after Asr, or it can be after Fajr. So it basically be after Fajr, after Dhuhr, after Asr, or after Taraweeh. These are the only slots. Any other time is going to be, it's just not going to work. Yeah. All right. خلاص, I'll see you guys after Salah, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.